Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about pruning fruit trees. There's a couple of principles that you can think about when pruning a fruit tree. First of all, if you have tons of branches like this, then a lot of the branches are going to shade the lower branches and you won't be producing fruit. So thin out the tree. That's one major principle, is you need to keep the tree thinned out so light can penetrate into the tree. So the first thing you would do is cut out any dead branches. So if there's a dead branch, get rid of it. And then you look at your tree and you look at any branches going straight up. Because if I'm an apple or a peach or a cherry or any kind of fruit on a tree, and my branch is right here and my fruit's coming off here, as that fruit is ripening, when the wind blows, it's going to be rubbing the branch the whole time. That fruit will never make it to maturity because it'll break the skin and it will rot on the tree. If it does make it to maturity, it will be blemished. Nobody will buy it. So, I have this branch right here, and it's way too thick, and I have a sharp knife. And so you can use pruners. There's all kinds of tools that you can use. You can have pruners. I like to use a sharp knife on small branches. So I have a branch right here, and it's going straight up in the air. See this one going up? So I'm just going to cut it completely off right there. It's a nice clean cut. When you cut a branch off, you don't cut it up. Don't leave a bunch. Try to keep it cut 1/4 of an inch to the main branch you're cutting it off. So as we look at this branch, there's a lot of branches coming downward. If you want your fruit to produce, you have a branch that goes straight up like this. This is 90 degrees compared to the horizontal. Halfway between 90 degrees and flat on the ground is 45 degrees right here. Your fruiting wood will produce on most trees at a 45-degree angle or lower. Now a lot of times your fruit will produce on a branch that's up here, and that's fine. But what you want to try to get your tree is at a 45 or lower. And sometimes if you bend it below 0, so you have a negative angle coming down this way, so here's your flat ground, and if you have that negative angle coming down, you can produce fruit a lot quicker. So if you get a very vigorous rootstock that's making that tree just push out all kinds of wonderful fruiting wood, all kinds of leaves and blossoms, and you pull down the upright growing ones. I'm talking about a brand new tree, a 1, 2, 3-year-old tree. If you pull those down below a 45, you'll start producing fruiting wood. And if you look on here, you will see these little tiny branches on here, and all of these have a fruiting bud. All these little cute branches that are all around here, and they're gonna bloom and produce apples. This tree, last year, all the apples blew off in the wind, so this is not a good tree to have in this climate where we have high winds. The apple tree over closer to the greenhouse, it actually had wonderful apples that stayed on the tree through all the winds, and so that would be one that we would want to propagate more of. This tree, we could go ahead and propagate a lot, but it didn't have the genetics to stay on the tree during high winds. So I have another branch up here that's going straight in the air, and that's a big branch. I can't cut it with this knife, but I'm going to cut it right there. That was a mess. That's what not to do. I better find some pruners. Okay, I brought my pruners over here. They're just a simple, cheap Walmart pair of pruners. As long as they're sharp and make a good cut, then it doesn't matter where you get them. This tree was way overgrown, and I cut about 1/4 of the tree off. There's a giant limb over here I cut off. So even though it's very congested, when you're trying to rehabilitate old trees like this, you don't want to cut too much off and shock the tree and kill it. I've known a lot of old people who have dealt with trees all their lives, and they agree that that can happen. I've never seen it happen. If you cut too much off of a tree that it dies. It could be just an old wives' tale, but I think it's probably true because the people who taught me that, they were pretty credible and knew what they were doing. So if you're going to prune a tree, see how there's a lot of these branches. Up above here I have a lot of mass where there's going to be a lot of leaves. All these branches down here, very thick, very thick, very thick. Here's a dead branch right here. So I don't cut it off over here. See how I cut that off and then there's a big chunk coming out. Put your pruners right against the trunk and cut it off so that it's very, as flat as you can get it. It doesn't have to be super flat, just make a nice clean cut to get that dead one off. I have a branch right here that's crossing over that branch, and they're both going upward, and so I'm taking those off. So now I have an empty space here. This branch is coming down at a negative angle. This branch is coming down at a negative angle. This one would produce a lot of fruit if it had a lot of light. But since it's coming downward, and that's a good thing that it comes down, but it's banging into all these other branches. And it's going to be shaded from all those up above. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that entire branch to open up the space inside the tree. Here's a branch right here that's going up, but it's a non-vigorous branch because it's bent. It has several years of growth in it. Here's a branch that grew last year, and it's almost 3 feet tall. So all of your vigorous growth, take it off. So I'm getting as close as I can right there. I can tell this is last year's wood because the wood is very shiny and brand new. Yeah, I think all of that was last year's growth, and then it even brought out spurs, so that, and it developed this fruiting wood right here last year when in the fall. That's when your fruiting wood is produced. So here's a branch that's going pretty much straight up. It's interfering with all these other branches, so I want to take those off. I'm taking that one off, and I'm going to take that one off. You can see that the tree is just starting to leaf out. If your tree is leaf, but it has not bloomed yet, but the buds are there ready to open. This is the last possible time to prune this tree properly. You don't want to wait till you're in full bloom or you're in trouble. And like I said, I'm already done pruning. I'm just showing you how to do this. I don't want to take off too much more off of this tree. But let's just look at it and see what is a good thing. This branch here is shaded by this big branch. It might be a good idea to take that entire big branch off because I have branches way up above and then I have these branches down here. If I want the branches down here to stay because the fruit is easier to pick, it would be good to take this one off. But this was a good strong branch, so if I want to walk under this tree and not bump my head, I could take these lower branches off. A lot of this is just up to you and how you want to prune the tree. Again, the keys to this is if a branch is going straight up, take them off. If a branch is dead, take them off. When you make a cut, don't leave a stump. Cut it flush. Cut it either to a bud or cut it back to a main branch. So a bud is just a spot, a node, the little notch right here where a new branch will grow out of. The very tip of this one is dead. That's not the healthiest branch in the world. A good thing to do here would be to cut it off. We could cut it. If we want this to keep growing as a main branch, we would choose the branch that's coming down that's healthy as the one to keep. So I would cut that there and then get rid of the branch on top. And that's how I would create a new scaffolding to go out if I was going to keep this branch. This bud is coming up here, this branch. This little branch is coming up. It would be better if they were coming from out of the bottom at this stage. This one right here, this branch is coming down out of the bottom. That would be a good one to keep. So we might cut this right here if we were developing new wood to come out of this tree. So this is one way to cut the tree. I want to show you something right here. I'm going to see if I can get a close-up on it. But this branch is coming down. Somebody cut it off out here, or a deer ate it off, or it broke off, and then you have, I have like a 4-inch long piece of material here that has died, and that's why we want to cut them off at a bud, because those sticks will die, and then they're very hard when you come in to manage your tree. You're getting poked and cut and scratched, and it will damage fruit. So there's the perfect example of how you don't want to prune a tree. See this portion here, I'll point at it with the end of my pruners, but right here, from here to here, we have 4 inches long that is dead. This got broke off, the branch the branch died out. Earlier when I pruned this tree, this branch was going straight up. I cut it off, and you can see that it is blooming out right here and right here with new growth. Okay, so if you have a dead wood like this, remember you always take dead wood out. So I'm gonna cut that off right there. And these are leaves coming out, and in the center are flower buds. If there's flower buds there, I can't even tell. That's where the flower buds should come. This one definitely is flower buds in the center. So this tree is going to flower very soon. When you get very technical into pruning, the way you would prune a tree could be very specific to the type of rootstock you have. I have no idea if these old trees are on a rootstock or if they're growing on their own roots. And if they are on a rootstock, I have no idea what it is. So it's impossible to prune according to the rootstock. But that is very technical and something that you would do if you had a commercial orchard. You would definitely want to know what rootstock you had and how to prune it to maximize the effectiveness of the rootstock, and how those hormones that the rootstock gives off to the rest of the tree are going to react to the way that you prune it. So that information exists, and that would be a very advanced type of class. But if you just have a regular fruit tree in your yard, the principles I just taught you are the things you need to remember. So let me just go through those again real quickly. Cut off any branch that's dead. When looking at your tree, open it up so light can penetrate by removing any branches that are crisscrossed and too congested, so the tree is opened up. If your branch is going straight up, cut it off. And the last thing is, when you make the cut it back to a bud or straight to the branch. Those branches were all going straight up off of the limb. That's why I chose to take them off. In case you're wondering, I have put this on here so it will grow roots. This is called air layering, and a video comes out soon on how to do that. Now this whip right here, this is alive. I can take this and I can put it in a rooting hormone, and I can start another tree if I need another tree. It may not produce the same as your tree which you have already have growing if that tree is on a rootstock, but it has the same genetics as the fruit being produced. So if I want to do wildlife plantings, or just to increase the number of trees in my ecology, and I'm not worried about when it blooms or other things that the rootstock would control, I can make a whole bunch of cheap trees by keeping these and rooting them and planting them. And that's what I'm going to do with this one. Now I can take this and make new trees for a wildlife planting from all of these little cuttings. So I think I will do that, make a bunch of starts. The third thing is if a branch is going straight off, cut it